Hello everyone, the data is in and the tribes are ranked. Last month, I asked you all to rate every tribe in Wings of Fire and over 1,500 people responded. That data is what made this tier list. And of course, we're doing another one, the Queens of Pyria tier list. This one was chosen by the channel's lovely patrons, Lightning Flower, Zany Sloth, and Kibley's #1 fan. A huge thank you to them. It really means a lot to me, and it really helps these videos be the best they can be. So, if you want your vote counted in the Queens tier list, the link to the poll is in the video description, and if you want to vote on which video gets made next, the link to the Patreon is right next to it. Okay, now, let's rank some tribes. Starting it off is the tribe with arguably the least representation of any in the series, which is saying a lot because they've been around since the very first book, and some of the others didn't appear until Arc 3. Oof. They do have some interesting aspects to them, like their family structures and their massive appetites, but ultimately, that's all they have, and it shows in the ratings. They got C tier. I have a feeling this would go up pretty fast if they ever get the spotlight, but that seems kind of unlikely at this point. Rest in peace, Mudwings. Not gone, but very forgotten. Okay, moving on, we have the Seawings. Similar to the Mudwings, and with the exception of a few key characters, they kind of stopped mattering after their main book, Book 2, but despite that, they actually made it into A tier. Even though they may not have had a whole lot to do with the main plot, they do have a really rich history and some quite, intriguing royal family drama, we'll call it. Plus, with fan favorites like Fathom, Indigo, and Turtle representing them, and with their absolutely beautiful glowing scales, there's a lot to love about this tribe. Now, we can't talk about beautiful scales without also mentioning the Rainwings. Personally, between their camo abilities and their magic despot, I find the Rainwing powers to be super interesting. Although they don't have any of the most popular characters in the series, they probably do have the most devoted fan bases. I'm talking like cult-level devotion here. Glory, Kinkajou, Pineapple, and Janboot. Man, if you talk bad about them, people are going to start squaring up. So they made it into A+, and I gotta agree, especially since they started their tribal reform with Glory at their head, they've come a long way and are now a tribe to be reckoned with. Next up are the Nightwings. Fun fact, of the 22 dragon characters who get their own points of view between the main arcs, legends, and winglets, 6 of them are Nightwings. 6 out of 22. That's double the amount of points of view as the runner-ups, Sandwings, Seawings, and Icewings, all tied at 3. Tui loves her Nightwing stories, and for good reason. The Nightwings have so many things going on. Between their powers, their plotting, and their history, there's just so many interesting stories to be told. Some of their characters are great, some of them are downright evil, and some of them are both great and evil, ultimately earning them a spot in A tier. I have a feeling they would be higher if most of their tribe wasn't kind of terrible in the first arc, but there we are. The data does not lie. And onto Sandwings. You know, despite all of them being basically the same in terms of appearance and abilities, I think the Sandwings have the most diverse tribe in terms of characters. There's so much variety. They have characters who are paragons of kindness and virtue, characters who are pits of evil and despair, characters who blur the line between criminal and hero, characters who are simple and ferocious, and others who are cunning and wily, characters who are cowardly, and characters who would face any hardship for one they cared about. There's just so much going on with them, it's hard not to find something you love. Ghibli. Okay, they get A+, Sandwings are great, moving on. Icewings are sparkly dragons to the north. Much like the Nightwings they tend to hate, they have some really great characters and some really bad ones. They certainly also have one of the most distinct societies of any of the tribes, governed by a sort of caste system based on the Icewell rankings, at least until some of the more recent events in the series. I think they also have some fairly polarizing characters representing them. Winter and Snowfall in particular are both loved and hated pretty strongly. Either way, they reach the top of A tier, so it appears people tend to enjoy them. Frostbreath and all. Next up are the Skywings. They are in an interesting place because, unlike the other tribes, the character representing them is not a normal dragon. Peril is, for lack of a better phrase, built different. Because of this, and because the books tend to stick to the edge of the Sky Kingdom when they go there at all, we just don't have a whole lot about Skywing society or about Skywings other than Peril, Scarlet, and Ruby. We had a chance with Carnelian, but that didn't work out. So instead, we're left with a tribe that has a few characters that each have a pretty good amount of page time, but a tribe that we know almost as little about as the Mudwings. Apparently they're religious? I would love to know more about that and them, but we simply don't at the moment. They get B tier, and I think it's probably because they just aren't in the books that much. Heading over to Pantala, we start with the Silkwings. They also get B tier. On the one hand, they're a very passive tribe, and with the exception of Luna, Swordtail, and some of the characters from the Chrysalis, they don't do a whole lot. Even Blue, who goes through this whole arc of learning to fight back against the system that's oppressed him his whole life, is just kind of sidelined after his book is over. On the other hand, though, they have Flame Silk, and that's kind of cool, I guess. And they're pretty... I'm trying really hard to think of something good to say here, and it's just not happening. Okay, Hivewings. I'm surprised they made it as high as they did, and they made it into B tier for a tribe that's almost entirely either bad guys or neutral guys, with the exception of like 3 or 4 characters. B tier is surprisingly good. They have the most unique set of powers of any tribe, I think, given that they each tend to have their own unique power, and I think that's pretty cool. They also have the big hive mind thing going for all of Arc 3, which was really interesting, so I guess this just goes to show it's better to be part of the plot, even if it's almost entirely on the side of evil, than it is to not be in it at all. Sorry, Mudwings. Then there's the Leafwings. Okay, they got A+. I could be wrong, but I'm not sure I've ever seen an entire group carried by a single character this hard before. Sundew is the fan favorite, and she brought all the other Leafwings right along with her into A+. Now, don't get me wrong, there are some other good ones. Willow and Hazel for sure, and some other interesting ones, Sequoia and Hawthorne to name a couple, but Sundew is just in a league of her own. Now, the bifurcation of the tribe into the Sapwings and the Poison Wings is also a really interesting part of the lore, so I'm sure that added something to it as well. And last, but not, and last, we have the Scavengers, who ended up in a tier of their own. And it was not S tier, it was D tier. The Wings of Fire fanbase loves to hate on Scavengers. I personally don't mind them. They're just like characters in my eyes, but a lot of people do not feel that way, and to be fair, the series is called Wings of Fire, and Scavengers have neither wings nor fire, at least not naturally, so I guess they kind of deserve this one. Anyway, that's the tribe tier list. Which surprised you? Which are you happiest about? Well, I hope you enjoyed, and thank you for watching.